Hey there, fellow creators. Ben here from Cinder Studios, and this week I'm doing something kind of silly and stupid. It's getting to be the time of year here where the studio's getting to be a little bit too warm to work in, past like 10:30 in the morning. So it's limiting my time of what I can do in the studio. Also, my motivation has not been great. So this week, instead of sort of a normal vlog or something like that, I decided that I'm going to make a tier list for all of the art supplies in my studio. Stick around. So yeah, this is just going to be a dumb little fun video for today. I went through my studio, I took pictures of all of sort of my regular art supplies and everything like that. I excluded papers and canvas and wood because those aren't materials in the same way that I'm talking about. And if I had broken down all of the different papers, we'd probably be here all day. So I just went with sort of like main painting and drawing mediums and that kind of stuff. I'm just going to rank them. So I've got S through F, as you know, a fairly standard tier list would be. S being like my absolute favorite, F being stuff I never touch, and then, you know, everything else in between. So let's just go ahead and jump in. The first one I have is acrylic gouache. I have some. I don't use it often. Honestly, I find its properties are pretty negligible when compared to regular acrylic paint. The only color of it I actually ever really use is white. I have other ones I've had for years. I really don't touch them. I'm going to start with that in C, and I'm sure I'll rearrange by the end, but we're starting there. Okay, regular heavy body acrylics. At least that's what that one is. S tier. You guys know me. I'm an acrylic painter. That makes perfect sense. Digital. So I have my digital drawing tablet. Despite being a fairly traditional artist, I do use my tablet periodically, and I do really enjoy it. So I think I can put that in A. Graphite pencils and sticks. Fairly standard drawing media. I enjoy working with graphite when I do, but it's not my go-to, so I'm going to put it in B. Water mixable oils. Okay. I first tried these in college, and they kind of got me thinking about oils at least a little bit. But since using real oils, I'm definitely in the camp of they're definitely not the same, and they probably should not be in the same camp as oils. I'm going to go C. Open acrylics. So I did split apart the different acrylic viscosities since they behave fairly differently. So open acrylics, I use them, but I supplement with them. And if we're looking at them in terms of a standalone medium, I'm going to say B. Probably low B. Photography. I've got a decent digital camera. I don't take pictures as much as I used to. I've been meaning to go out and go on a hike and just really wander around and just take pictures of stuff. Actually, that might be a good activity for today, even though it's supposed to be hot as hell. I think that's also a B. Ink pens, S tier, no questions. Clay, specifically air dry clay. That's something I use maybe once or twice a year for various projects. Obviously can't do as much with it because it's air dry clay. It also has a tendency to be less durable because you're not firing it. Useful, but I know I don't use it often. I'm going to put that in the lower end of C as well. High flow acrylics. High flow acrylics are wildly useful. I'm not using them constantly. I'm not using them for every piece, but I can probably put that in A. Printmaking stuff. This is sort of a pretty broad category. Let's put linoleum block printing specifically. Something when I do it, I do enjoy it. Am I using it all the time? No. Is it honestly, I think block prints are actually way more of a chore than anything else. It might be the first one to go into D tier. Sorry, printmakers. Casein. I tried that. I reviewed it, I guess, last year, I suppose. If memory serves, might be 2 years ago now. It's hard to keep track. Honestly, one of the worst paints I've ever used. F. That's right. I have a wood burner that I got when I was like 10. Honestly, one of the single most dangerous tools to not only to give a child, but also to do any kind of art with. This is tough. I'm gonna put it at the lower end of D. That might dip lower just because of how horribly dangerous it is. Because it's just like, here, have a soldering iron and burn things with it. It's like, what are you, crazy? Okay, soft or chalk pastels, specifically the soft kind. Because I think the hard ones are in here somewhere too. Soft pastels, I would say upper B tier. Could put that in there. I love working in soft pastels, but the dust gets everywhere, and it's a matter of I kind of have to dedicate the studio table to just work on those, because that when that dust gets everywhere, then it's on your hands and it gets into your painting if you're not cleaning up. You know what? Lower A. Charcoal. So I have a love-hate relationship with charcoal. I recognize that it is one of the core fundamental media like graphite, but it's can be fun to work with, can be difficult to work with. I almost never touch it. Probably because I'm a landscape artist and not a portrait artist. I'm gonna say upper C tier. I'm sure I'm gonna piss some people off with this. Oil paint. If you asked me 10 years ago, oil paint would probably be an F tier. These days, I think it's in B. Above the open acrylics, believe it or not. Oh, I only have one of these. Colored charcoal or colored graphite, specifically colored charcoal. This Derwent XL charcoal. Very fun to play with. Pretty much completely useless D tier. Upper D tier. Watercolors. Okay. Watercolors are another medium I have a real love-hate relationship with. I have a lot of watercolors. I really should stop buying the tubes because a lot of my tubes are starting to dry. And that only happens when you don't touch your watercolors for like 5 or 6 years. I like working with them, but everyone thinks like, watercolors are a really easy medium. Watercolors are actually one of the single hardest mediums that you can choose to work with. Watercolors are accessible. I think they're the most accessible medium. Are they the easiest to work with? No, they're absolutely not. Yeah, it's another one. It's the love-hate relationship. I'm gonna put them somewhere in the middle of B as well. Wood carving. That's another one of those oddball things I tried when I was in my early teens. I have this set of wood carving knives. They are actually probably more dangerous than the wood burner, since if you miss or you're holding the wood wrong, you're literally just stabbed yourself in the hand, and that happened way more times than I would like to admit. The knives are sharp as hell, and you really have to find a nice softer wood to work with, which I did not do when I was younger, and promptly, learned my lesson the hard way. I think that's going to go upper F tier, honestly. Alcohol markers. So the only alcohol markers I have are the Copic wides, which I use to sketch periodically, and I really enjoy working with them. But overall, as their standalone medium, I'm not a fan. I'm really not a fan. And everything I know about them makes me less of a fan. So short of some periodic sketching, it's kind of like the XL charcoal. So I'm going to put them in D. D. Upper D tier, I think, works. Okay, I have a small handful of fluid acrylics. I know fluid. This one's going to piss people off, I'm sure. I know fluid acrylics are wildly useful for a lot of people, but I am not one of them. I have a couple of them for some extraordinarily specific uses, but I honestly don't like them that much, which is why in the course of, like 20 years of painting, I only have 5 of them, all of which I've bought in the past year. So, lower C. Gouache. Gouache is similar in my brain of that love-hate relationship to watercolor, but it is better than watercolor. So it's going to go in watercolor with B, but also above the watercolor for gouache. Okay, hard pastels. Again, similar. They're both chalk with pigment-based medium, like the soft pastels, but the usage of them I find to be a lot more limited, and I'm using them more for mixed media stuff than I am for a full, like if I'm doing a full completed pastel piece, it's like a little bit of detail at the end or something like that, or even just like sketching at the very, very beginning. It's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I tend to use them more for as a sketching medium than a more completed pastel drawing where I'd use the soft ones. Lower B, upper C, probably. B is getting quite populated here. Inkstone and Inkstick. Sumi Ink. Specifically the Inkstone version, because I don't have any of the liquid stuff, and it's basically India ink at that point. I really wanted to like that a lot more. It's very fun to sit there and grind it out and then doodle a little bit with it. But I think unless you're like hardcore calligrapher, it's kind of just a novelty. And I really wanted to like it a lot more than I do. But it's not bad enough to put it in D, so I'm going to put it at the back of C. Sculptural materials. So this is kind of a vague category. So a couple of years ago I did this, I'm not sure, I think the videos of when I did the arm, but a skull prop where you use liquid latex and cotton balls and various things to sculpt out things. Very fun to do, very limiting in terms of, like liquid latex, it takes a while for it to dry, like a day basically. So it's like, okay, I worked on this, now I'm just going to put it in the corner and then not touch it for 2 or 3 days before I can work on it again. So it's kind of similar to oil paint in that regard. You kind of just have to set it aside. I'm going to put that in somewhere in the middle of D. Liquid inks with dip pens and brushes, respectively. Liquid inks are... It's pretty vague to say liquid ink because there's a lot of different kinds of liquid ink. Technically, you could say that the high-flow acrylics are technically an ink, depending on how you look at it. But I'm thinking more like India ink and other types of like calligraphy ink and stuff like that. Honestly... I might say like lower end of A. Like I don't use them often, but when I do, it's like normally like the pen and ink in conjunction with the pens. It might dip a little lower, but I really do like liquid ink. MSA acrylics. So I bought these for a video primarily. I also really wanted them for a long time. They're a mineral spirit version of acrylics that are actually a lot closer to oils. And are designed for conservation artists, and I am not a conservation artist. And honestly, even working with them is a royal pain in the ass. So, if you're a conservationist, I'm sure they're fantastic, but for me, they're F tier. I have not touched. I don't think I've touched them maybe once since I bought them to do that video. Colored pencils come in all kinds of shapes, variety, and sizes. I love working with colored pencils. When like a lot of this stuff, I love working with it when I do, but I really don't really. It's like to do a full colored pencil drawing is insane in terms of the amount of time that it takes. And I don't have the patience for that most of the time. But I do really like working with colored pencils when I do, and I'm going to put them in B tier. Oil pastels. Okay, so this one's mostly a hate relationship. I grew up with the cheap, shitty, like Pentel oil pastels, which I think a lot of people do, and a lot of people don't like oil pastels for that very reason. And then you try something like an oil pastel from Pentel, or not Pentel, Sennelier is the one other brand that I have, and you feel how like buttery, rich, and smooth and creamy they are, and you go, rather than like a crayon like the other ones, and you just kind of go, oh, that's what these are supposed to be like. So I would probably put them in F, but I'm going to put them in D because of that wild jump in quality when you get cheap, shitty oil pastels to good ones. But even the good ones are literally at the back of my drawer full of drawing materials, and I never touch them. Paint markers are an interesting medium. Technically, this would qualify under acrylic as well. Paint markers changed the way I worked quite a few years ago. And while I don't think I would just make a paint marker drawing / painting, that actually is an interesting question, whether you consider paint markers painting or drawing. I'm actually not sure. I feel like the vehicle is very drawing, but the paint in the markers is very... I'm going to have to think on that one. That's an interesting conundrum. Anyway... the paint markers themselves, that's the thing. It's like a lot of these things where it's like when I'm combining medium and doing mixed media stuff, or like combining, if I was treating like all of the acrylics together as one acrylic, like they'd all be an S. But when you break it down into the different things of like open or high flow, they split off. And that's kind of where I am with the paint markers, and I think I have to go C, because it's like on their own, not 100% useful, but like combined with other stuff, it would be higher. So I'm kind of just treating things on their own. Okay, this one's also going to piss some people off. So this doesn't also really count as its own medium. I included pouring medium, so like paint pouring, and it's more of a style of creation. I tried it a couple of times. It's definitely not for me. I know people will get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but personally, I think it's the lowest end of F tier. Pigment sticks, like the ones from RNF, or I think Sennelier makes some too. So oil paint in stick form. I like screwing around with these periodically, but as a standalone medium, they're not great. So I'm gonna put them in C. Tempera paint, specifically dry powdered tempera. I don't even know if they make this shit anymore. Yeah, the dried. I actually saw some at the Center for Creative Reuse recently, which is a art thrift store. And I was like, holy crap, somebody else had some of these lying around. Aside from a gag just thinking about it, they smell horrendous. And they're not useful. It's mostly a thing for kids to keep them busy. And that's why I still have some, but God. I'm literally thinking about opening that thing up. That smell is just foul. We have a new lowest of the low for F tier. All right. Polymer clays. Sculpey. It's another thing I do like once in a blue moon. And don't have a ton of use for all the time. I'm going to say... I think it's higher than the... strangely enough, I think it's higher than the air dry clay. But I don't know if it's high enough to put it in B. So I'm just going to put it above that one in C. All right, our last one is spray paint. Spray paint, again, like in conjunction with other media, awesome, would be S tier. On its own... God. Upper B? Something like that. Okay, so that's every medium in the studio ranked. I definitely got to go back through this and see if this needs rearranging. I'm sure it does. But that's initial gut reaction. Okay. S tier. heavy body acrylics and ink pens, no question there. A tier, high flows, digital, pastels, and liquid inks. I think digital can be lower. And I actually think the pastels can be at the top of A tier. That actually sounds more right. Than, ink type things. Okay, B. Colored pencils, that's good. Spray paint, yeah. I actually want to bring graphite up to A above digital. I think we definitely were way too hard on graphite. Because again, every time I work with it, I'm like, I got to start doing this more. The gouache, I'm actually going to pull up to the top of B, above the colored pencils. Watercolor still kind of at the end. You know what? I'm actually going to pull oils to the top. So oils, then gouache, then colored pencils. I like that. Definitely the open acrylics above. Even not above colored pencils because they stand alone. They take a lot longer to dry. Definitely above spray paint for sure. I think then photography is sort of in that middle section. That works well. Then watercolors, hard pastels. Oh, God, it's really a lot of these belong in the same position. Ooh, that is the question. I think watercolors are good towards the back end of B. Hard pastels above spray paint. That works. Okay, C tier. Paint markers, absolutely. Charcoal could probably be at the... Oh, you know what? I'm switching spray paint down to C tier, and I'm actually going to pull charcoal up to B. That's a bold move, but, back end of B. Spray paint markers above spray paint. Yeah. Acrylic gouache can definitely be way towards the back. The oil sticks are definitely better than the water mixables. Yeah, that can be way further back. The inkstone's more useful there. Super Sculpey and the Stone X, that works. I think I can actually pull the fluid acrylics above all of the other ones. That's definitely a higher C tier than I made it. Water mixable and the acrylic gouache at the back end of C. That feels right. Okay, D tier. So what would say the highest end of D tier? Definitely actually the charcoal and then the printmaking stuff, I would say. Despite the fact that, again, I'm not doing linoleum blocks often, but it's definitely better than these. Markers, that makes sense. Oil pastels can be lower, actually lower than the wood burner, I think for sure. The sculptural stuff, and yep, that makes sense. Okay, absolute worst of the worst. I think I can take the MSA acrylics up, probably right below the Copics. They're not as bad. They're hard to work with, but they're doable. Painting knives, yes. Or painting knives. Wood carving knives, yeah, that's definitely pretty terrible on the F tier. Weirdly more dangerous than the wood burner. Casings where it belongs towards the bottom. Paint and pouring down below, and the nasty ass dry temper. You know what? That's good. I can be happy with that. So that's my ranking for all of the art supplies I have in my studio. A lot of stuff in the middle. Only two on top, and that feels right for me. So yeah, that's where I stand for my usefulness and my approach to media, so to speak. I'm curious if you guys I'm sure you guys will have some thoughts and comments below, and your own rankings on how you'd completely rearrange this list. But this has been a fun little side one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did myself. So thanks guys for watching, and this has been reminding you to keep on creating, stay inspired, and I will see you guys next time.